and it is still not a federal crime in America to lynch a black man or woman. Something is wrong with that. Why hasn't the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill passed? Why hasn't the George Floyd Police Accountability Act passed? I'll tell you why.
All right, now, stand here with me, sis. We're getting ready to introduce one of the most dynamic, important speakers that will bless your ears. He will bless your soul. He will put fat on your brain to sizzle. He will make you think. He will challenge you. He will challenge what you believe. And he will set a new standard. I say that with oh so much praise for this brother. He's opened many eyes and blessed many ears. We bring to you at this time Dr. Umar Johnson. Can I have a hand for him, please? Please get a hand. Dr. Johnson.
Put your fist up. Dr. Umar Johnson. Come on, y'all. Fist in the air. Let's go. All power to the people.
Black Power.
Black Power.
I had never heard of Kenosha before August the 23rd of 2020. If memory serves me correctly, I was home with my mother watching the television when the news came on and cut to an emergency report about the tragic shooting here last year of our brother Jacob Blake. And then of course in the immediate aftermath, some of the players, George Hill being one of the leaders of the Milwaukee Bucks, decided to protest by not coming out from the locker room for their Game 1 match with the opposing team. This case involving Jacob Blake was used by Republicans and Democrats as campaign fodder. Although Joe Biden, who was on the campaign trail at the time, and Donald Trump, both spoke apologetically towards Jacob Blake, neither one of them actually did anything about the way in which police treat black people. Now the irony of that is we had all these shootings that have been taking place under full view of camera, captured on video. And yet there was still no justice.
Right, no justice.
When President Biden took office, his first act of office was not to do anything about police brutality.
That way.
It was not to do anything about police genocide.
Come on now.
He did not do a single thing about the unjustified murders of unarmed and defenseless African Americans. But what he did do on his very first day was sign a historic protection executive order for the LGBT community. Now, I don't have a problem with the president making America safe for alternative communities. But I do have a problem with the fact that you got on the Breakfast Club and you told black people that if they did not vote for you, they were not black.
Yes, he did.
First of all, who gave you, as a white man, the right to decide who is black and who is not black?
Say that.
And then on top of that, after you exploited not only Brother Jacob's shooting, but the murder of other African Americans for campaign votes, you get into office and you do absolutely nothing.
That's right.
For the black people whose votes you exploited.
Say that.
And then in Atlanta, we saw a tragic situation where Asian women were being murdered in parlors.
Yes, say that. Speak on
And the
that.
president and vice president flew down to Atlanta
Yes, they did.
and had a personal conversation with the Asian community.
That's right.
Well, where was the personal conversation with the black community of Kenosha?
Say that.
And where was
Say
the
that.
personal conversation with the black community of Louisville?
That's
And where
right.
was the personal conversation for the communities from which Tommy Rice and Eric Gardner and Sandra Bland and Philando Castile and Alton Sterling and the list goes on and on.
Tatiana
We've
Jackson.
been getting butchered, murdered, executed, and assassinated by police
Tatiana Jackson.
over the past 2 decades in a manner that we had not seen since the 60s.
Yeah,
But we don't get a personal conversation.
that's right.
Black people, the time has come
Yep,
for us to get off of both the Democratic Party plantation
that's right.
and the Republican Party plantation. We have picked too much cotton for them,
Say that.
and we have gotten too little in return. I understand why we went over to the Democrats, because in the 1930s, with the Great Depression and with FDR's New Deal, we saw in that New Deal package some programs that we thought would result in some positive consequences for black folks. Well, it's been almost 100 years, and we've been voting Democrat,
Say that.
and we have gotten nothing for it. Let's look at those Democratic presidents. Joe Biden, still silent on all of the major problems that affect black people.
Yes, he is.
And what are those 5 major problems that affect black people? They are, in no specific order, miseducation, mass incarceration, gentrification, economic marginalization, and police assassination.
Yes.
President Joe Biden and Vice President Harris, where is your program to address miseducation? Where is your program to address mass incarceration? Where's your program to address For the life of me? I totally believe that those police who came into Sister Brianna's apartment that night, knowing that the man they were looking to apprehend had already been apprehended and was not there, I believe they thought that she was harboring drugs and they were coming here to steal the dope that they thought she had so they could resell it on the street. I absolutely believe that. All of the evidence point to the fact that they were going in there looking for drugs, not justice. Brothers and sisters, I looked up Kenosha because I had never been here, but I wanted to find out in what context was Brother Jacob unjustifiably shot. I wanted to find out in what context would a white police officer discharge 7 bullets with 3 innocent children in the back street watching.
Come on now.
I wanted to find out in what context would those same police who arrived on the scene for Brother Jacob Blake saw him putting a child in the car, so you knew that there were babies involved. You knew that that brother was not likely to do anything dangerous to anybody with his 3 sons on the back seat. You knew that your life was not in jeopardy.
Yes.
So I said, what is the context in which Jacob Blake was murdered? So I did a little research, and I found out that Kenosha and the greatest state of Wisconsin leads the country in many racial disparity categories. I saw that although Wisconsin is a state that ranks in the bottom 5th for white people and being incarcerated, Wisconsin is a state that ranks in the top 5 for black people being incarcerated. I saw that in Kenosha, a black man is 11 times more likely to be arrested than a white man. In Kenosha, I saw that a black baby is 3 times less likely to make it to their first birthday than a white baby. I saw in Kenosha that black children are graduating at less than half the rate of white children. And I even looked at the statistics for Wisconsin as a whole. Wisconsin has one of the worst black mass incarceration rates in the country, one of the worst employment rates for black men in the country. And although we are only or predominantly populated in Milwaukee and Racine and Kenosha and a few other places, that does not give the government of Milwaukee or the municipal government of Kenosha the right to ignore black people. It does not give you the right to mistreat our lives. It does not give you the right to miseducate our children. It does not give you the right to push us out of our neighborhoods. Brothers and sisters, police genocide will remain a problem for American Africans until black people start holding their politicians accountable. Until black people start holding our preachers accountable.
Come on.
There are two groups of people
That's right.
who have a lot to do with what happens to us.
Come on now.
They are complicit in what happens to us
Come on now.
because they serve as the gatekeepers of the white power structure against black people. And that is the black church and the black politician. Deacon Watermelon, Reverend Pork Chop,
Yes.
Deacon Chicken Wing. It is these Negroes who tell black people that life will be better once they get to heaven. Well, why is it we're the only people in America who gotta wait to die in order to experience some joy in their lives? Why are we the only people in America who have to wait to die in order to get some peace in our lives? Why are we the only people in America who have to wait to die in order to get justice? If white people don't have to wait to die, if Chinese don't have to wait to die, if the Arabs or the Latinos don't have to wait to die, why should black people have to wait to die?
Yes.
Last time I checked, we built America. And although every group contributed to the creation of this nation, nobody contributed more than African people to the building of America.
Say that.
Every rock, most railroads, your cotton we picked it, your tobacco we grew it, your rice we harvested it. We are the reason America is who she is in the world. We are the reason America is a superpower. We are the reason that you can go around the world playing Santa Claus to countries whose resources you done already robbed and stole from. You ain't Santa Claus, U.S. government. You ain't never been Santa Claus. You might be Satan Claus, but you ain't Santa Claus. How the hell do you rob from Liberia and then give them a loan? How do you rob from Ghana and then give them a loan? How do you rob from Nigeria and then give them a loan? How do you rob black people of millions of votes every presidential and governor election and you give us nothing but a couple token Negroes that you sit in city council, or a couple token Negroes you place in our community for community resource officers, or a couple pastors who you use to distract us with verses from the Bible and verses from the Quran telling us to ignore what's happening to us because God is in charge. Black people, I'm here to tell you, you suffer because you allow yourself to suffer. You suffer because you are disorganized. You suffer because slavery has made us all too comfortable being passive victims as opposed to being willing revolutionaries. Slavery has made us all too comfortable being second-class citizens instead of first-class guests. Slavery has made us all too comfortable depending on God to do for us what is within our capability to do for ourselves. Black Kenosha, why you don't have an independent school? Black Kenosha, why you don't have an independent health clinic? Black Kenosha, why you don't have an independent supermarket or an independent bank? It's not because you're only 2,000 of 100,000. It's because we have been coerced into thinking that we are not supposed to be taking our destiny serious. We will only change the situations we live in when we make up our minds to no longer accept them. My great ancestor Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there will be no progress. Frederick Douglass said, the limits of tyrants are prescribed by the people who they oppress. We determine how often we get beat. We determine how long we get beat. We determine how long racism will exist against us. Frederick Douglass said, this struggle we have might be a moral struggle or a physical struggle, or it might be both moral and physical. But he said, power conceives nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. He said, the slaves that are whipped the most are the slaves that are whipped the easiest. Frederick said, if we as black people are ever going to get free of the injustices inflicted upon us, we will have to pay for their removal. We will have to pay with blood, or pay with blows, or pay with our lives. But he said he knows one thing for sure. If you do not sacrifice something, you will not get anything.
That's right.
Frederick Douglass said, for 20 years, for 20 long years, from 1818 to 1838, I prayed on my knees to freedom, but I got no freedom until I got up off my knees and start praying with my feet. He said, if you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity?
Come on now.
The man who pities you will never respect you. And the man who respects you has no need for pity.
Come on now.
Police genocide will continue until the George Floyd Police Accountability Act passes the U.S. Congress.
Say that. Say that.
The brutality against black people will continue
That's right.
until the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act passes the U.S. Congress.
Say that.
So somebody help me understand how we can pass laws for gays in a couple days, and we can pass laws to protect immigrants in a couple days,
Say that.
and we can pass anti-Asian hate laws
Say that.
in a couple days.
Say that.
But we haven't got a single anti-lynching bill in American history. 400 years,
Yeah.
over 200 times, and it is still not a federal crime in America to lynch a black man or woman. Something is wrong with that. Why hasn't the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill passed? Why hasn't the George Floyd Police Accountability Act passed? I'll tell you why. Black people and white folks, I want you to hear me as well. I don't believe all of you mean us harm. But white folks, what we do need you to do for us, for those of you who claim to be purely and equitably invested into the justice of all people, including black folks, fight as much in City Hall as you march with us on the street.
That's right.
Fight as much in the governor's office as you sit with us as the rallies.
Come on now.
Fight as much down in Capitol Hill as you spend time consoling our families after we got murdered. Those governors, those state legislators, those police officers, they are your family, they are your friends, they are your neighbors. You grew up with them. You can do so much more justice for black folk by speaking white people to white power as opposed to marching with black folks. Show us that you care when you home with your relatives. Show us that you care when you hanging out at your all-white churches. Show us that you care when you're around your all-white friends and they make jokes about black people and you laugh it off because you're not at the Jacob Blake rally. Don't be against racism at the rally. Be against racism every second of your life. Don't be a hypocrite because the world is populated with too many of them. The reason we don't see this lynching act and this police reform act pass in Congress is because politicians are afraid of police and teachers. And the reason politicians are afraid of police and teachers is because they are the two largest unions in America. Police have the votes. Police have the money. Teachers have the votes. Teachers have the money. There's more police and more teachers than any other union in America. This is why Joe Biden won't hold them accountable. This is why George Bush wouldn't hold them accountable. This is why Barack Obama wouldn't hold them accountable. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, George Bush, none of them held the police accountable because they're afraid to lose their money and they're afraid to lose their votes on election day. But brothers and sisters, we can hold everybody accountable.
That's right.
We have to stop being apathetic. We have to stop being disinterested in our own best interests.
Yeah.
Black people have to get out of this lazy political personality where we're loyal to the moment, but we're not loyal to the movement. We will show up at the first protest, but won't show up to the second. We'll show up to the second protest, but we miss it on the third.
That's right.
We want to run around and make a scene when the cameras are on. But what the hell do you do when the cameras are off?
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, there's a difference between a revolution and a revolt.
That's right.
There's a difference between a revolt and a reformation. And there's a difference between a riot and a reformation. A riot, brothers and sisters, is nothing more than a temper tantrum. A riot is you letting the power structure know you don't like what's happening. But a riot is not organized. A riot doesn't have demands. A riot doesn't have a vision or a destiny or a plan. A reformation believes that we can change the way things are done by working through the power structure as it exists. Those who are reformers believe that you can achieve justice in the system as it is. The revolutionary understands that the way in which law has been created and constructed in America dictates that it be destroyed and rebuilt from the ground up. Revolutionaries understand that the police department cannot be reformed because the police department was built on the backs of enslaved Africans, and it was the slave patrol that was the first
police in America whose job was to keep us in order and whose job was to keep us working on the plantations. So the police departments of America can never be fixed. They have to be destroyed and built from the ground up. If I were in charge, I would totally reject the Democratic proposals in Capitol Hill for police reform. Number one, any police officer who unjustifiably kills an unarmed black person should be charged with a hate crime. No ifs, no ands, no buts. You kill a black person unjustifiably, you are charged with a hate crime. Number two, any police officer guilty of unjustified murder will not receive a pension. They will not receive the protection of the FOP. You will not have the benefit of the taxpayers' money to pay for your defense. How dare you kill one of us and then use my tax dollars to keep you out of jail after having committed the murder? Brothers and sisters, oppression in America is the ability to do what you want to black people and then dictate how black people respond. Some white folks have lost their minds. You killed Jacob Blake, you killed Breonna, you killed Ahmaud Arbery, you killed Sandra Bland, and you got the nerve to turn around and tell me how I should respond. With all due respect, I never saw you tell the Jews how they should respond to the Germans. So how dare you come and tell black people how we should respond? And then you tell us if we don't like America, go home. Well, be careful about that, because you don't have a home. Everywhere you are on the planet, you stole it from the people who were there before you, including Europe. And if you want us to go home so bad, perhaps we might. But on our way out the door, there's some things you're going to give us. Number one, you're going to return to black people every single invention that we created in the history of your country. Give me my cell phone and give me my internet. Give me my helicopter. Give me my refrigerated truck. Give me my lights. Give me my walkie-talkie. Give me my radio. Give me my baby carriage. Give me my golf tee. If you take the black man out of America, there is no America left. We're the reason you are who you are. Brothers and sisters, let us understand something. As we stand here today, and we want our young brother Jacob Blake to know that what happened to you was wrong, and that you got a right to hurt. Nobody, black or white, should ever have to worry about being shot 7 times with their 3 sons looking at them. Those 3 babies are going to be traumatized for the rest of their life, watching their father, shot in the back like that. Nobody should ever have to go through that. I don't care what color you are. But black folks, until we start using our votes to achieve justice, we'll never win this. Black folks, until we start using our money to achieve justice, nothing will change. We are the only ethnic group in America who does not have a political fund where we finance the candidates we want to represent us. Stop letting black politicians choose you. You have to choose them. Stop letting black preachers choose you. You have to choose them. Stop letting community organizers choose you. You have to choose them.
That's right.
As I close, I want to say to the brothers and sisters in Kenosha, Black Philadelphia stands in solidarity with you. New York City, where I was on Tuesday celebrating the birthday of the most honorable Marcus Garvey, New York told me to tell you they stand with you. New Jersey and Delaware and DC told me they stand with you. They couldn't be here in the flesh, but they here in spirit. When I got the phone call from Sister Teresa, I said, say no more. I am there. Because that could have been me, that could have been my brother, that could have been my nephew. We have to stop being so selfish that we only get alarmed when the racism knocks on our door. We only get alarmed when it touches our family. We only become concerned when it affects our loved ones. We have to get out of the me consciousness and the I consciousness and get into the we consciousness and people consciousness. Brothers and sisters, nobody knows how long you will walk on this planet Earth. Everybody here, black or white, you have a birth date that you know.
My birth date happens to be today, August the 21st. And you will have a death date that you don't know. But between your birth date and your death date, there will be a dash. And that dash will represent everything you did with your life, from the day you were born until the day that you died. And I'm here to tell you, your life is worthless if it wasn't lived to make a better tomorrow for the unborn. Your life means nothing if you have never struggled to make this a better world than the one you were born into. You do not live for yourself. You live for your offspring, your posterity. Generations of your unborn will suffer or they will enjoy promise based on the way in which you lived your life. As I close, I want to say a word to the parents of Kenosha. I am a school psychologist by trade and a doctor of clinical psychology. I looked at the statistics for black children in Kenosha, and I wasn't happy with what I saw. Black parents, number one, stop putting your children in special ed because somebody asked you to do it. No black child in Kenosha should be going into special ed unless you as the parent believes there's something wrong with your child. But let me make sure you understand something. As a school psychologist, I can tell you, there's no way in hell I can prove a 5-year-old has ADHD. There's no way in hell I can prove that a 4-year-old is autistic. There's no way in hell I can prove that a 6-year-old has a reading disability. There's no way in hell I can prove a 7-year-old has a math disability. I need y'all to understand that putting your black child into special education is creating a permanent underclass out of black people in Kenosha. Special ed is justified miseducation. I said special education is justified miseducation. The reason why your child can't read is because there's no books in your house. The reason why your child can't read, there's no dictionary in your house. The reason why your child can't read, there's no thesaurus in your house. There's no encyclopedia in your house. It bothers me when I go to homes and I see video games and laptops and iPads, but I don't see no damn books. How you gonna build a leader if that child ain't a reader? And then you want to put them in special ed because they don't do no homework. Whatever happened to homework in our community? If you want to be a good basketball player, you got to practice shooting. If you want to be a good football player, you got to practice catching and blocking and throwing. If you want to be a good reader, you got to practice reading. You know why white children outperform black children? It's not because they're smarter, and it's not because they're superior. It's because the average middle-class white child spends 8 to 12 hours a week studying outside of school. The average middle-class Asian child spends 15 hours a week studying outside of school. And the average inner-city black boy, because he thinks he's going to be a football player, he thinks he's going to be a basketball player, he thinks he's going to be a rapper, he thinks he's going to be an entertainer, and because of that, he spends only 45 minutes a week studying outside of school. Your child don't need special ed. What they need is discipline. They need discipline. And I want every parent out here to know that discipline is the #1 responsibility of a parent. Your child has to leave your house with the ability to do what they don't want to do when it has to be done, whether they like it or not. If your child doesn't leave your house with the ability to delay pleasure long enough to experience pain, they'll never amount to anything. Because any of us who have become anything know you have to get comfortable doing what you don't want to do to one day be in a position to do what you would like to do. Brothers and sisters, make them children read a book a week. Read to the first graders and read to the second graders. Read to the preschoolers. It bothers me that we got so many black kids in special ed for reading disabilities in this country. But my ancestor Frederick Douglass taught himself how to read under threat of death during slavery. No public school, no special ed teacher, no IEP. So explain to me how ancestors on the Underground Railroad running away for their life can learn how to read, but your child can't without a special program. Your black child don't have a reading disability. Your black child don't have an intellectual disability. Your black child don't have a math disability. Your black child has a lazy as hell disability. He's too lazy to learn how to read. He's too lazy to learn how to do math. He's too lazy to control himself. And please stop getting your babies evaluated and medicated for ADHD. ADHD is a trap. ADHD is the devil. ADHD is not a scientific diagnosis. The Wall Street drug companies made it up to get paid billions of dollars every year off single-parented black boys. When do we get ADHD in the black community? 1980. Is that a coincidence? That's the same year the CIA dropped off crack cocaine, brothers and sisters. They created ADHD to label every black boy whose father was incarcerated. And to make matters worse, the same crack cocaine that got his father locked up is now being given to the son so he can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus and George Washington. If selling crack on the streets of Kenosha is wrong, giving crack to little black boys in public school should also be wrong. They don't need drugs, they need love is what they need. And the problem with the public school and the charter school is that it's lacking too much love. I want to say this as I close out. Brothers and sisters, we cannot get comfortable with police genocide. It will get worse. As a psychologist, I need you to understand all behavior, everybody's, black, white, purple, the behavior of an animal, the behavior of a plant, all behavior is a function of the consequences that follow. There have been very few consequences for those police who have murdered our loved ones. And until there are consequences, police genocide will continue. It will never stop, as Frederick Douglass said, until we organize and do something about it. The problem with the black community is not that we're black. We don't suffer because we're black. We suffer because we're black and disorganized. We don't suffer because we're black. We suffer because we're black and disinterested. We don't suffer because we're black. We suffer because we're black and we love to spend our money on everything except the right thing. That's why we suffer. And if we want to change it, we got to come together. That means the Muslim and the Christian got to work together. Dark skin and light skin got to work together. The African from Kenosha and the African from Milwaukee got to work together. The one from the East Coast got to work with the one from the West Coast. The one who just got out of jail got to work with the ones who never been to jail. The ones who make $1 billion a year got to work with the ones who are homeless on the street. It must be all for one, brothers and sisters, and one for all. This will continue until we show God that we care enough to do something about it. Let's be very clear. The reason divine consciousness has not aided black people in our struggle is because we have stopped believing in ourselves. And if you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in God, because God is nothing more than a projection of yourself. You can't say, I believe in God, but you don't stand up for Jacob Blake. You can't say, I believe in God, and you won't march for Breonna Taylor. You can't say, I believe in God, but I don't care about what happened to Sandra Bland and Tamir Rice. You cannot be for God and tolerate evil. I close with a quote from the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence you have won even before you have started. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman said, I spent a long time on that Underground Railroad. Almost got caught many a times. But whenever that happened, I would drop on my knees and ask God to help me find a way out of a situation. And whenever I leaned on the Creator found a way for me out of my situations. She said, I freed hundreds of slaves, but I could have freed thousands. The problem with my people is most of them didn't know that they was even slaves. Kenosha, that was 200 years ago. Our ancestors were in chains and still didn't know that they had a right to be free. Before there can be political equality for Africans in America, before there can be economic equality for Africans in America, before there can be academic and social equality for Africans in America, Africans in America must first achieve psychological equality. If you do not believe that you have a right to exist in this country, you won't. And if you do not believe that you have a right to be treated as bad as well as anybody else, then you won't. You must know it within yourself in order to see it in your life. Brothers and sisters, we are entitled to reparations, and we will get those reparations. But before we receive any external reparations, we have to take care of the internal reparations. No amount of money is going to fix the black male-female relationship issue. No amount of money is going to fix the self-hatred in our communities. No amount of money is going to make us spend more time with our children and help us build up our communities. No amount of money is going to stop us from trying to look like white people instead of looking like ourselves. There must be internal reparations before there can be external. Kenosha, Wisconsin, I thank you for the opportunity to address you. 1 year anniversary in 2 days of our brother Jacob's shooting. And we will not stop until that police officer is held accountable for what he did. I heard he went back to work in April. See, white people, what we need you to understand is white privilege is the problem. No black person could have shot a black man 7 times in the back with his 3 sons on the back seat, take a few months off with pay, and then go back to work the following spring. No black man could have done that. Only a white man could have done that. So we have to work against white privilege, because white privilege is an evil born of American colonialism that says black people are not worth it. Well, who do you come from? Because last time I checked, the black woman is the first woman. And last time I checked, the black man is the first man. So if you're saying that I'm less than you, then what the hell must you be if you came from me? The black man and black woman are the mothers and fathers of everybody. That doesn't make you less than us. I believe all humankind are equal. But I do believe we have to expose the hypocrisy, and we have to expose the bigotry, and we have to expose the racism that I would argue all white people have just a little bit of it. And white folks, you have to continue to challenge yourself to get rid of those vestiges of racism that creep into your consciousness ever so often. This is not just a few white people. This is not just President Biden. This is not just the governor of Wisconsin. This is not just the mayor of Kenosha.